While the world's attention is often captured by the immediate thunder of military conflict, a far more quiet and expansive war is being waged through concrete, steel, and ledger books. We are talking about the Belt and Road Initiative, China's trillion-dollar project that has been described as the most ambitious infrastructure program in human history. To some, it is a modern-day Marshall Plan, bringing connectivity and modernization to the global south. To others, it is a sophisticated financial weapon designed to reshape the global order, trap nations in unsustainable debt, and secure strategic assets without firing a single shot. This is the story of how China is using the new Silk Road to rewrite the rules of global finance and geopolitical leverage. I'm Josh, and this is Undercurrent. To grasp the scale of what we're looking at, you have to look at the sheer geography of the project. The Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, isn't just one road or one belt. It's a dual-pronged strategy. The belt refers to the Silk Road Economic Belt, a series of overland corridors connecting China to Central Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Then you have the road, which is actually the 21st century Maritime Silk Road, a sea route connecting China's coast to Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Mediterranean. We are talking about a network that spans over 140 countries, covering 2/3 of the world's population and 40% of global GDP. It is an attempt to pivot the entire world's trade toward Beijing, effectively bypassing the Western-dominated trade routes that have defined the last century. But the real power of the BRI isn't in the asphalt or the cranes, it's in the financial architecture behind it. Unlike Western aid, China's loans are marketed as no strings attached. For a developing nation that needs a new bridge or port, the Chinese offer is incredibly tempting. They provide the financing, the engineers, and the labor. They get the project started fast. However, as many nations are now discovering, those no strings actually come with very heavy financial anchors. The financial mechanics are where the weaponization becomes clear. These aren't grants, they are commercial loans, often at higher interest rates than what the World Bank would offer. They are typically funneled through state-owned entities like the Export-Import Bank of China or the China Development Bank. Because these loans are opaque, many countries end up with hidden debt that doesn't appear on their official balance sheets. When the projects fail to generate revenue, often built for strategic rather than economic reasons, the host country is left with a mountain of debt it cannot repay. This is where we see debt trap diplomacy in action. There is no clearer example than the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. This is a cautionary tale for the world. Sri Lanka took billions in Chinese loans to build a massive port in the home district of the then president. Despite warnings, the project went ahead. When the debt became unsustainable, the Sri Lankan government was forced into a humiliating concession. They couldn't pay the interest. They signed over the port and 15,000 acres of land to China on a 99-year lease. China secured a strategic port not through conquest, but through foreclosure. This isn't an isolated incident. Across the globe, we are seeing similar patterns. From Africa to Central Asia, the financial anchors are being dropped. In Djibouti, home to China's first overseas military base, the national debt to China has soared to over 70% of the country's GDP. In Laos, a multi-billion-dollar railway has put the small nation in extreme financial vulnerability. The cost outweighs the revenue. Critics argue this is intentional, identifying strategically located but financially weak countries to overinvest in and then use the debt as leverage. This financial weapon also breaks the Malacca dilemma. Currently, most of China's energy imports pass through this narrow choke point. The strait could be blockaded by the US Navy in a conflict. By building pipelines through Pakistan, China is creating alternative lifelines. They are building a string of pearls, naval and commercial nodes allowing power projection and secure supply chains across the Indian Ocean. These nodes allow China to project power and secure their energy routes, fundamentally changing the security architecture of the entire region. The impact is felt most acutely in Western capitals. For decades, the US dollar and the Western system were the only game in town. If you wanted to develop, you played by Washington's rules. China has shattered that monopoly, pulling the global south into their orbit. We see countries in Africa and Latin America align their UN votes with Beijing, often as a direct result of their financial dependence. The BRI is a tool for building a Sino-centric world order where rules are dictated by Beijing rather than the consensus of the G7. However, this weapon isn't without risks for China. Many loans are now going bad as the global economy slows and interest rates rise. More and more BRI participants are asking for debt relief. This leaves China in a difficult position, losing billions or seizing more assets. If they play the tough banker, they destroy the win-win narrative they've worked so hard to build and risk a backlash from the global south. We are seeing pushback in Malaysia, where projects were canceled due to concerns over sovereignty and cost. The tide is shifting. The US and its allies have finally begun to respond, launching initiatives like the G7's Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. But many argue it's too little, too late. China has a 10-year head start and has already laid the groundwork in critical regions. While the West talks about building back better, China is already there, building the ports, the 5G networks, and the power plants. We are witnessing the most significant shift in power since the Cold War. It is a transition from hard power to financial power. The Belt and Road Initiative is the primary vehicle for this change. It is a long-term play to slowly and methodically sideline the US. The goal is to turn China into the indispensable hub of the global economy. Whether you call it a project or a weapon, the reality is clear. The maps of the world are being redrawn, and they are all starting to lead to Beijing. The shift is happening through the ledger books. The next decade won't be defined by carriers or missiles, but by who holds the debt of the world's emerging nations. That's the real undercurrent. The Silk Road is no longer a memory. It is a live wire of financial and strategic power currently being plugged into every corner of the planet. For Undercurrent, I'm Josh. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like and share this video. The financial shift is a complex story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our investigations. For deeper dives, check our Substack and Patreon in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Preparedness comes from understanding the world's real undercurrents.